He placed his lips on Sarabi's, closing his eyes out of embarrassment, perhaps, and slowly blew air into her mouth. Once, twice, 3 times, until her chest began to rise and fall. Tara, that's enough. But Asif didn't stop, and his lips remained pressed against hers. Tara, Asif, that's enough, she repeated, but he didn't stop. Taj, who had finished dealing with the giant, shouted at him. That's enough, you fool. Your girl is fine now. Sarabi opened her eyes as she began to regain consciousness. What happened? Asif, embracing her, said, I thought I'd lost you. She wrapped an arm around his neck and replied, You'll never lose me. Taj, in a tone that indicated she wasn't pleased with what was happening, said, Do you two want us to leave so you can have more space? Sarabi felt embarrassed and released Asif's neck. Meanwhile, Tara said, The Emperor's army needs to arrive as soon as possible. The news won't take long to reach Tagheen, and then he'll order all his armies to move against us. Asif asked, Where do you think the battle will take place? Tara, I think it will be here in the village of Al-Jassasa. Then she asked, Will the Ashawis tribes join us? Asif, I don't know. The sage and Iqlal haven't returned yet. Taj interjected, We'll need a real miracle to win if the Ashawis tribes refuse to join. Asif began to feel anxious. The battle was indeed approaching, and Iqlal and the sage still hadn't returned. What would happen to him and his allies if they were weaker and less capable of facing the enemy? Sarabi grabbed his hand and said, Don't worry, everything will be fine. He didn't respond and walked silently and distractedly toward the houses of Al-Jassasa village. Sarabi, where are you going? Asif, to evacuate the village. We need to minimize our losses as much as possible. The exhausted Sarabi got up and followed him, struggling to keep her balance. Wait, I'm coming with you. Tara gently asked. She loves him a lot, doesn't she, Taj? Taj, I promise you, this love won't last long. Tara turned to her and asked worriedly, What are you planning to do this time? Taj, nothing. She said this and fell silent. Jabbar led the Emperor's army through the gate opened for them by the demon Rosanna. The fighters began to pour into the land of Al-Jassasa, riding on the backs of winged warhorses. It took the army a long time to fully cross, and the village soon became like a living beehive. Khizran divided the army into 5 main sections: the head, the right flank, the left flank, the center, and the rear. She repeated loudly from time to time as she positioned the troops, We won't stop fighting until we fall to the ground and die. And all the fighters, without exception, repeated after her, We won't stop fighting until we fall to the ground and die. Meanwhile, Jabbar tried to avoid meeting his wife, Taj. Whenever he encountered her on the way, he would take another path. But once, Taj said to him before he could turn away, When will you admit that you were wrong to judge me, Jabbar? He turned to her and said, as if apologizing, Tagheen has caused me a lot of trouble, Taj. Taj, why are you punishing me for someone else's guilt? Jabbar, weren't you the one who told me he wasn't seeking to overthrow me? Taj, I was a victim just like you. My brother Tagheen lied to me just as he lied to you. Then she added, bowing her head respectfully and continuing in a sincere tone, But look at me today, my lord. I am in the ranks of your soldiers, ready to sacrifice myself so that you may regain your kingdom and throne. He nodded in approval, then whispered, After we regain the kingdom, we'll return to live on the island of the gods, in the palace of the kingdom of Ababeel, as we did in the past. Then he added playfully, patting her hair, And perhaps you'll be blessed with a son who will be the deputy to his father's throne. She felt immense happiness upon hearing this news and smiled like a child whose father had promised to take her to the market to buy candy after finishing her daily chores. She said hopefully, Do you think Asatir might return when he hears the news of you regaining the throne? Jabbar, that ungrateful boy, he said angrily. What need do I have for him in times of prosperity if he wasn't there for me in times of hardship? Asif led Sarab into the old room where he used to sleep and said, You will stay here until this war is over. His mother protested, But everyone else will be fighting with you. Why am I the only one who won't help? He cupped her face in both hands and replied, Keeping you safe is the greatest help you could give me. So please be well. And you, she pleaded, will you promise me that you'll be okay? I can't promise that. Why would you say that? This is a great war we are about to fight. No one can guarantee they'll make it out alive. You could have at least given me a false promise of returning instead of saying something so terrifying. I'm not used to making false promises, he said, then added, Will you do as I ask? She was not pleased, but in the end, she nodded in agreement. Before he left to take his place in the army, he gazed deeply into her eyes, clear as a tranquil lake, yet filled with the anxiety of a frightened squirrel. He memorized every detail of her beautiful face, as if wanting to keep a piece of her in his mind forever, even if he were to die in battle. He placed a kiss on her forehead and whispered, I love you. He waited, hoping she would say it back, but instead, she replied with pleading eyes, I will wait for you to return safely from your war, and then I'll say it. With passion, he responded, Then I promise you, I will do everything I can to come back. The next morning had not yet dawned when the Emperor's scouts arrived from the farthest reaches of the village of Al-Jassasa, bringing urgent news. My lord Jabbar, Tagheen is leading a massive army toward us. Their numbers are vast. We have never seen seen such an immense force before. Jabbar turned sharply to Asif. Why have the Ashawis tribes not arrived yet? I don't know, Asif replied, bewildered. We haven't received their response yet. You haven't what? Jabbar exclaimed in shock. Does that mean you don't even know if they will fight alongside us? Asif remained silent. His grandfather roared at him. Answer me, damn you. I sent word to them asking for an alliance, Asif said hesitantly. But I have not yet received a reply. And why did you tell us that you had already secured their agreement? Were you lying? I thought I would get it. You thought. Do you think war is a game? You reckless fool. You made me commit our entire family to this battle, and now you tell me you only thought they would join us. What kind of idiot war leader are you? I even brought women into the fight, and now you've doomed us all. The minister, Kizran, stepped in. My lord, let us withdraw while we still have time. We can't, Kizran, Jabbar growled. It would take too long for the entire army to retreat, and Tagheen could arrive at any moment. That would leave those still withdrawing as easy prey. Saving some of us is better than all of us perishing, my lord. They followed me here because they trust me, Jabbar said firmly, and I will not abandon even one family member to die alone. Then what do? We have no choice but to fight, Jabbar declared. He slammed his boot against his warhorse's side, and the beast's wings unfurled as it soared into the air. He raised his massive fist and bellowed, "Victory to the emperors!" His soldiers echoed in unison, "Victory to the emperors!" Not long after, the distant sound of wings flapping filled the air, shaking the ground beneath their feet. As they turned their eyes toward the horizon, they saw the enemy army in the sky. Just the front of their forces was enough to blot out the sun. Death had arrived. The two armies stood face to face. Tagheen's forces, bolstered by his allies from neighboring kingdoms, vastly outnumbered the emperor's army. The moment of battle was near, and defeat loomed overhead like a vulture circling its prey. Tagheen, from the safety of his ranks, wrote a secret message on a piece of leather, sealing it with the royal seal of the kingdom of Ababeel. He then entrusted it to a messenger, who boldly rode toward the emperor's army, waving the scroll mockingly. I bring a message from his majesty to the so-called Jabbar of the emperors, he taunted. To Jabbar, this was an insult too great to ignore. He rode his winged warhorse forward and demanded, "What do you have?" The messenger leaned in, whispering, "I bring you and your family a chance at life." Jabbar unrolled the leather scroll and read its contents. "Surrender Asif to us, and this war will end."